The silent passenger. The rain lashed against the bus windows, distorting the faint glow of the streetlights. Sarah stepped onto the nearly empty bus, her wet shoes squeaking on the floor. She scanned the rows and froze. At the very back sat a man in a dark, tattered coat. His hat was pulled low, hiding his face. His hands, long, pale, and almost skeletal, rested on his knees. Something about him felt wrong. Sarah hesitated but took a seat near the middle, far enough to feel safe but close enough to keep him in her peripheral vision. As the bus jerked forward, she gripped her bag tighter, her pulse quickening. The man hadn't moved, not an inch, but his presence loomed, heavy and oppressive, like a shadow pressing against her chest. She tried to shake the feeling, focusing on the rhythmic hum of the engine. Then she noticed something strange. The bus driver wasn't using the mirrors. His gaze was fixed on the road, his hands gripping the wheel too tightly. The faint glow of his eyes in the rearview mirror seemed hollow. The first stop came. The bus lurched to a halt, the doors hissing open. No one got on. Sarah exhaled, relieved, until she glanced back. The man was closer. He had moved 3 rows forward, but she hadn't heard a single sound. His head was still tilted downward, obscuring his face, but now his hands were clenched into fists. Sarah's stomach churned. She pulled out her phone, desperate for distraction. No signal. Her breathing grew shallow as the bus entered a darker part of town. The streetlights flickered and died, leaving only the weak glow of the bus's interior lights. Another stop. The man was now 1 row behind her. Her hands trembled as she gripped the seat in front of her. She wanted to scream, to call out to the driver, but her voice refused to come. She felt the weight of his gaze on her neck, even though his face was still hidden. The lights flickered. When they stabilized, the man was sitting next to her. Sarah gasped, jerking away, but her back hit the window. Her phone buzzed violently in her hand. A message appeared. "Don't look at him." Her chest heaved as she held her breath, her eyes fixed on the screen. The man's head slowly turned toward her, the brim of his hat lifting just enough to reveal a sliver of his face. His skin was stretched too tightly over his skull, his mouth impossibly wide, curling into a grin that revealed jagged, blackened teeth. His eyes, black, hollow pits, dripped with something thick and red. The bus jerked violently, throwing Sarah forward. She scrambled to her feet, screaming, "Stop the bus! Please stop!" The driver didn't move. His reflection in the rearview mirror wasn't human anymore. His face was smooth, featureless, as though someone had erased it. The bus screeched to a halt, throwing Sarah to the floor. The doors slid open with a groan, revealing an endless void outside. Thick, swirling fog poured in, seeping into her lungs like icy tendrils. The man stood, towering over her now. His neck cracked as he tilted his head, his voice a guttural rasp. "This is your stop." Before Sarah could react, the fog surged forward, swallowing her whole. When the bus was found the next morning, it was parked in an abandoned lot. The driver was gone. The seats were soaked as though the rain had poured inside, and on the rear seat lay a single, soaked hat. Her phone was discovered on the floor, its screen cracked but glowing faintly. The last message on it read, "You're next."